Um, Try it again. I make another comment in another video. The first two were pretty well received, so I want to try it again to see if I can continue to bless folks through this process. This video was sent to me by a friend of mine. We did our PhDs together. He's down in Kentucky. I'm in Michigan. And we've had a conversation off and on for years about lonely guys, relationships, and friendships. And we are close, though we're at distance. We don't talk that terrible much at a time just because we're both busy. We both have young kids. We both are working a lot, and we catch up when we can. And it's always really good because we think a lot alike and we're both therapists, so we're supportive of each other. And so he sent me this video in the context of we both lost our dads in the last year. His was 7 months ago now. My dad was 2 months ago, July 24th, just over 2 months. And we both consider ourselves close to our fathers. Our relationships were different than how we see them. But my dad was more of a confidant. I would talk to him about things. I would tell him everything I could because he was just really gentle and kind in that way. And he was amazing. And I miss him greatly. And it's not as sharp anymore. It's more of a dull pain. But I've struggled with relationships at my church. I'm a professor. I have a doctorate, I think, as a counselor would. And so I just naturally think different than most guys. It's just because of the way I was trained. And even I was different, even in high school and whatnot. I'd dunk on somebody and help them up because I'm different. I'm quirky. I'm unusual. And like Dave Ramsey said, normal is kind of stupid. I would rather be quirky and unusual. And so but I've had trouble making relationships at my church. I don't hunt. I don't really fish. I don't complain terrible much, at least in public. There's a lot of things where I just don't really fit in. I tend to think deeper. But when I get with other therapists, when I get with other guy therapists, especially that I teach with, that I'm really close to, I connect more easily. And so I've always thought it's just me, and a lot of it is just me. I take responsibility for that. But he explained some things in here, and there's some things where I'm like, there might be a little out of balance, but I want to play this for you and talk it through and have a conversation, maybe in the chat. And if I can ever get it to play.
You've been going to church for years. You can't name one man you'd call at 2 a.m. when your world falls apart. You sit in rows of men every Sunday.
Right. So the one guy for me, I do have a closer friend here in Michigan. I just don't know if I can call him at 2 a.m. The one guy for me is in Kentucky, and he can't really do anything outside of drive 8 hours.
Who are drowning just like you. Nobody talks about it. Here's the brutal truth. Modern churches create the loneliest Christian men on earth.
Quite a statement, isn't it? And don't know that he's wrong.
Feel-good gospel destroys masculinity by removing everything that makes men strong. Today, I'm exposing exactly how the church hurt you and how to find one that calls you to something greater. Your pastor might hate this one. Subscribe right now. And here's what's actually happening. Churches traded discipleship for attendance numbers instead of challenging.
Look, he's using sweeping statements. I don't think this is always true. Like my church, I don't know if they're the way. I'm sure it's on their minds because you got to pay the bills, but I don't think it's their main focus. I know there are others that do.
And to embrace discipline and sacrifice that prioritize emotional experiences that leave men spiritually empty and isolated.
I feel all the time. I feel spiritually dry, which is really interesting because I'm the head of the discipleship committee for my program, 1,700 students, depending on the time of year. I design all these programs and do all these things, and people tell me how much they've grown and how they're blessed by it. Then I'm sitting over here going, I'm so dry.
You hoped church would sharpen you, but instead it softened you. You got book clubs instead of Brotherhood.
Me, but it did dull me. I'll say it that way.
Feeling circles instead of accountability.
Feeling circle, if it has accountability in it.
1/3 of church attenders feel disappointed at least half the time.
No, is it because the churches are bad or because the people have expectations that are unrealistic? I want to know that.
Practicing Christians dropped from 45% to 25% in 20 years.
Some part of the stats right there. I'll stop. I'm interrupting too much.
You're not broken. The church system failed you. Your pastor cares more about keeping seats filled than keeping men
Not a fair
alive.
statement in every case. I just want to say that out loud.
And the proof is in every man who disappeared and nobody noticed. You join the men's ministry hoping to find warriors who
The church doesn't even have a men's ministry. They do have men's Bible studies. I haven't joined those. I tried one for a while, and I was so frustrated. I was just so frustrated at some of the things were said, even by some leadership, that I was like, I can't do this right now.
conquered the demons you're fighting. Instead, you find Dave from accounting leading discussions about emotional intelligence.
Now, there's nothing wrong with emotional intelligence, but I get what he's saying.
Everyone shares surface level prayer requests. Nobody mentions
This is
real.
contradictory. I'm interrupting too much again. I can't help myself. If they're talking about emotional intelligence and they're being fake at the same time, that's problematic, but they seem contradictory.
Struggles, depression, failing marriages, feeling like failures as men. Think about your typical men's breakfast. 45 minutes discussing the game, 5 minutes praying for traveling mercies. Jim needs prayer for his unspoken request.
I wonder what he means by traveling mercies. Unspoken requests I get. And most of it is, we don't confess to each other. He's right about that.
The same one he's had for 3 years. Nobody asks what it is because asking would mean caring. And caring would mean getting involved. A small group still studying Wild at Heart after 18 months because actually applying it would mean admitting you're not wild. You're domesticated. Your accountability partner sends you devotionals every morning, but has never once asked you about the porn you confessed 6 months ago.
That's true. I work with guys in these kind of situations, and they've confessed and opened up to people, and nothing ever comes of it, or they'll meet together, and then all of a sudden they get shamed because they've been struggling with it for too long. That's really true.
Remember when Tom stopped showing up? The group texted him twice, then moved on. Later, you hear his wife left him. He's been drowning for months while you all discuss theological concepts and never touched real life. Or take Mike, the elder who taught Sunday school for 20 years. His son overdosed last month. No one knew he had a drug problem because Mike never felt safe.
I know Mike. I know about 5 or 10 Mikes, and yeah, that's right. They don't talk about that stuff a lot of times. At least they don't talk about it to me. Maybe that's the problem. I don't talk to anybody enough.
Enough to share that his family was falling apart while he taught yours. 20 years of purpose.
And that's true. And even in some cases, you have men that spend so much time at church to neglect their families, leadership and service, all this kind of stuff, because we're taught constantly that if we're not serving the church, we're not really a part of it. To serve your family, if you ask me, is to serve the church at a very high level. You don't always have to be a Sunday school teacher or working in the nursery or kids' church or working on grounds to be serving the church. The church is not just a building. We make it that way. It's almost like Gnosticism, only it's the church building. It's the spiritual thing. But your house is no good.
Perfect attendance, zero real relationships. You finally crack.
Okay, this is one thing up to me too, is like, you can tell, I'm not exactly huge. I lift regular. I played college basketball. I was an athlete. I'm not so much anymore. I still run. I still live. But I'm 6'8", and I weigh just south of 200 pounds. I've gotten over 200 a couple of times. I'm lifting extra. But the point is, he's big. He's muscle bound. They talk about the way of the warrior. And then I go back to this place in my mind where you see these men of like the something 33 project. I can't remember. And they're like grunting and scratching and talking about how tough they are. And they're not like this. Yes, I can be a warrior and a man and strong and a leader. And also I can have this gentle, soft, maybe not soft, but gentle and thoughtful side where I care about other people's emotions. And I'm not going to beat him over the head with a baseball bat because that's where my head goes. I know that's not what he's saying, but it's where my head goes.
And coming back, the statistics are damning. 60% of Christian men feel spiritually isolated within their own churches. You wanted to be called to something greater, but they told you, God loves you just the way you are. You needed.
So that's what bugs me too. It's going to be so long. People say God loves you just who you are, or God doesn't make mistakes, or he made you perfectly. I'm broken. Quit saying those things. I'm broken. He saves me. He redeems me. But he's not saving me and redeeming me out of a perfection. He's doing it out of brokenness. And so he's getting at that.
Men who teach you to fight. They offered easy, feel-good lessons and called it discipleship. Dietrich Bonhoeffer warned, cheap grace is grace without discipleship, grace without the cross. You're getting cheap grace that keeps you comfortable and keeps you weak. And here's what's at stake. Christian men are killing themselves at record rates. The suicide rate among church-going men has doubled in
This I haven't heard. I wonder where he's getting this stat from. It's got to be a Barna thing or similar.
10 years. You know why? Because loneliness literally rewires your brain for despair.
We know more and more about that kind of stuff these days with all the advanced brain scans and the brain science that we have and all the studies. I just listened to Andrew Huberman for a little while, and you hear a lot of this kind of stuff.
Google pastor commits suicide and watch how many results come up. Even the shepherds are dying of loneliness. If the leaders are drowning, what chance do you have? This isn't about hurt feelings. This is about men in your
To be completely honest, if leaders are drowning, I don't think it changes my chances because that's a whole nother conversation.
congregation right now planning their exit because they've been praying harder for years and nothing changed. Look at me right now.
Interesting.
True Christianity isn't soft. It's radically masculine. It demands self-mastery and sacrifice and truth-telling. It's about laying down your life, not pursuing comfort. Real masculine Christianity has three foundations. First, self-mastery through submission to Christ. Paul wrote, I discipline my body and I keep it under control. 1 Corinthians 9:27. Biblical masculinity.
It doesn't give me any context. Oh, students, if you're a student, you're watching me, I want some context. Tell me what. Because this statement, discipline my body and I keep it under control, could mean so many things. So what's he getting at here?
And I keep it under control. 1 Corinthians 9:27.
Give me some context.
Biblical masculinity starts with mastering yourself, appetites and emotions and desires.
That's
surrender to Christ,
Starts with
not willpower. Modern churches avoid this because it implies you're currently out of control. Second, service that costs you something. Jesus said, whoever wants to be great among you must be your servant.
Again, I want some context. Do some exegesis. Tell me what's going on in the passage. Give me, I don't know if he's using it, if I'm just looking at it.
Mark 10:43. Not volunteering at the coffee bar, laying your life down for people who can't pay.
Hey, what's wrong with volunteering at the coffee bar? It goes back to what I was saying earlier. It's not just service to the church specifically, the building. It's service to the body. And in your family, and your kids are part of the body. And quit neglecting your own family for the sake of putting up signs and cleaning at the church.
You back. Think about the early church. They sold their possessions to feed widows. They risked death to visit Christians in prison.
Way more
These church asks you to volunteer for the parking team. Third,
hard.
fighting battles bigger than yourself. Every great Christian man
It just shouldn't be the extent of it.
was defined by the enemies he fought, not the comforts he enjoyed. You're fighting for your children's souls, your community's spiritual health, your own character, but you can't fight from a church pew designed for comfort. Look at the men who shaped history. Moses endured hardship, leading Israel through the wilderness. Paul sacrificed comfort and faced persecution to spread the gospel. Christ modeled ultimate masculinity, strength under
I want to know if any of those people had kids. It kind of changes things because then your responsibilities are a little different.
control, authority and submission to God, sacrifice for others. Masculine Christianity means embracing the discomfort of discipline, accountability, and relentless pursuit of truth. It calls men to stand courageously, lead humbly, and sacrifice willingly. You're drowning in loneliness because the church gave you cheap grace when you needed costly discipleship. They promised you could follow Jesus without taking up your cross.
It's true. No, that's true. It happens all the time. It's like we don't expect anything outside of volunteering. I know people who are divorced, people who just follow language, people who drink too much. I know people who do all these things that are not acceptable in basic church doctrine, but the church dismisses it as long as they volunteer. And I'm not saying this so much about my church, but stuff I've seen over the years. And it's scary. And there's a reason why men are falling off. I agree with.
Here's how to reject feel-good gospel and find real Christianity. This Sunday, sit in church with new eyes. Watch for 3 things. Do sermons challenge you to die to yourself or comfort you to stay the same? Is accountability genuine and costly or super?
I don't even know what accountability looks like some days. Completely honest. Several years ago, I didn't know what spiritual discipline looked like. I didn't know what it was. It's hard to turn. I don't think I listened well. But I don't really know what like spiritual accountability or discipleship. I don't know what it looks like. Begged people over the years to take me on, and for a little while, some have, or like one time I had to move. And there's things. Everybody's too busy for this. They're too busy volunteering.
Superficial and safe. Are men discipled to sacrifice for others or just encouraged to find their purpose? If it's comfort every time, you need a new church, period.
So this doesn't describe my church in that sense. So some of these things, it's not perfect. It's people. Wow.
Look for pastors who regularly address sin and repentance, spiritual warfare, and discipleship costs. If you're
Okay, that's true, but you also don't want to do all that. Like you have to learn some other sections of the Bible as well.
Pastor hasn't made you uncomfortable in 6 months, he's not preaching the gospel. But don't wait for your church to change. You change first. Send this exact message to the most disciplined man. I need a mentor who won't let me stay weak. 1 hour weekly, 90 days, no excuses. You in? If he says no.
Now here, a lot of guys look at this and they go, I don't know who I'd even ask. There's a lack of saints in the church, if you will, these days. At least in the circles that I've walked. Dallas Willard has in his Something Hard book. I can't remember the name, but he has this idea that like people have stopped trying because they don't see it as possible. And so like, I'll never get there. What's the point of even working at it? And so he claims he claimed, I should say, there is a significant lack of saints, less than there used to be these days, because people aren't willing to put in the time.
Ask the next man. Keep asking until someone says yes. Meet every Tuesday, 6 a.m., same coffee shop. Miss twice without a death in the family? You're out. This isn't just another church program. This is war against isolation. Read scripture together. Ask each other, how is Jesus calling us to die to ourselves this week? Share openly, confess honestly, and hold each other accountable. As for your personal disciplines, tonight, put your phone in another room. Bible on your nightstand. Timer set for 10 minutes. No excuses, no exceptions. Check Instagram before scripture.
So first time I saw this, which was this morning, I bought an alarm clock because I'm intending on leaving my phone outside of my room because I've gotten back into the habit of having it by my bed. It's not good for you because of the EMF stuff either, but it's also not good for you because it's the first thing you grab, the first thing you think about, and it's that addiction piece.
Sure, you've already lost the day. Do this for 30 days and watch how your
I don't know if you lost the day. It's like you can't come back from that.
mind changes.
Do it for 30 days. I'm with it.
Early church thrived because it demanded radical discipleship and sacrifice. Men bonded through shared hardship and purposeful mission. Acts 2:46 says they met day by day and shared everything, not weekly, daily, not some things.
They also live next door to each other. It's harder to do in the States, though not impossible.
Everything. Your loneliness isn't a disorder. It's your soul rejecting counterfeit community and demanding real brotherhood. The men around you are drowning too. Find one willing to bleed with you and build the brotherhood the church promised but never delivered. Your loneliness ends when you become the man who breaks the silence. One man refuses to play church anymore. He speaks the truth others are too scared to say. Men around him remember what courage looks like, and they follow. A brotherhood forms where fake community used to exist. One honest man creates a tidal wave of change.
So this is true, but there are a lot of guys who will say, "I'll get kicked out of my church." I had that thought myself. If I say these kind of things, I'll get run off. And that's okay with me, to be completely honest. Like, this kind of stuff is important. There's a balance to what he's saying, I think. But this stuff is important.
Be that man.
Still my share. Folks, I hope this is helpful, my commentary. I don't know if it is or not for sure. There has to be a balance between being super soft, low T, limp wristed, passive, which is a big thing in the churches I've walked in, passive men that just don't step up to the plate a lot of times, including me. But there's a difference between limp wristed passivity, okay, and all big muscle, stretching, beating things up, breaking the doors if you walk through them, all way of the warrior stuff. We have to be able to walk in different circles. And so there's a gentleness you need with your kids and your wife and your family. There's a gentleness you need in certain situations. But then there's also this courage and bravery that can come out. I can be courageous and brave and strong without breaking the door off the hinges. When I read Jesus, I see both things. I see a very strong man who was not afraid of anything. He was courageous. He would speak the truth in all circumstances, but then he was gentle and kind in others. We often put ourselves in situations, not situations so much, but we often put ourselves in boxes where we have to be one or the other, grunting, scratching, breaking things, or super passive. There's nothing in the middle. And women can help us with that, but it is not their responsibility. Every time I see one of these things, I think, I could do better. I need to do better. I have to do better. Okay, we'll do another one next week if I find a video that's interesting enough, but I hope this has been beneficial.